On this episode, once we feel okay about changing our own opinion, how do we come to grips with it being okay for other people to change theirs? Hey everyone, and welcome back to Ideanthro. In episode 140, we talked about why, if we are going to implement water-sensitive urban design and transition from a point where our cities are not particularly water-sensitive to a future where they are, well, it's really important for us to not only be happy to change our minds, but actually be proud to change our minds. Because this journey is going to, tack back and forth. We're going to try things. Some things aren't going to work. We're going to take a few detours down dead ends. And if we want to eventually get to this water-sensitive goal, it will really help if we are actually proud to change our mind, that it's actually a good thing to change our mind. But today, I saw a LinkedIn article, and it got me thinking. And it made me realise that there's actually a second part to this story. So the first part to the story was becoming okay ourselves with changing our own minds and how that frees us up to innovate and to do different things. But the second part of the story is how do we become okay with other people changing their minds? And I think this one might be a little bit trickier. It's certainly trickier for me. So I'm guessing you're wondering, well, what was this LinkedIn article that you saw? It was this article here. It was a post by Tony Wong, who's the CEO of the CRC for Water Sensitive Cities. That was a lot of C's in that. The CEO of the CRC for Water Sensitive Cities. And he made this post, and he shared this really useful blog post about essentially why plants are dying in biofilters, in bioretention systems, in green infrastructure. And Tony shared that with the comment essentially along the lines of that he agrees with elements of it. And my initial reaction was, wait, why is Tony sharing that? I think that a lot of the reasons that the plants are dying in our green infrastructure is that the CRC itself in its documents have got all these mistakes, and actually their documents are the cause of this. Which frankly was really quite a hypocritical response from me. And I toyed for a little while about making a post to that effect, not really bluntly, more in a question format. I wasn't completely consumed with this strange response. But I toyed for a while with making a post on LinkedIn to this effect. But it was quite a hypocritical response to me. One of which is because, as I alluded to in episode 140, I feel that it's quite okay for us to change our opinions of things, and therefore that even if CRC documents maybe do have some problems in them with respect to not helping the plants to survive in our green infrastructure, that it's still okay for people, including Tony, to change their minds and to have opinions on the topic. And secondly, it's also really hypocritical for me because I produce all these videos, and no doubt at some point down the future, in fact already, some of the videos I've made previously, my opinion will have developed and changed further, and some of the old stuff's going to be out of date. So it's really hypocritical for me to criticise, or at least in my own mind, the fact, or the kind of question why Tony would make that post. But it got me thinking. And after chewing on this for a little while, for, the best part of a day or so, I realised that what this is actually leading to is, okay, there's two parts to this story about being proud to change. The first one is being comfortable with the fact that it's okay for us to change our own opinions. So if we previously thought that, bioretention systems did such and such, but now, actually we've got this new bit of information, let's change our opinion to bioretention to do such and such, that's okay. But the second part of this is actually we need to give other people the permission to change their opinions. Because our peer pressure, because it's actually kind of one intertwined, intermingled loop here, whereas, okay, if I'm sitting in a bubble, it's one thing for me to be like, sweet, I'll change my opinion whenever I want to. But it's a little bit different if I step out into the real world and I'm seeing some new info that makes me want to change my opinion on something, but 1,000 people who've watched these videos, that was really optimistic, 1,000 people, there have not been 1,000 people watch these videos so far. There's a whole bunch of people, 1,000 people, have watched these videos, and I'm trying to change my mind, and some of them are like, but Jack, in episode you said, suddenly it becomes a lot harder for me to change my opinion. So if we want to get to this state where we are actually proud to change our minds and do change our minds to help us track to this water sensitive future, not only do we have to be good internally with that, but we actually have to show everyone else that it's okay for them to change their opinion as well. So I wanted to make this video to put that out there. Now, I'm sure it's going to be a little bit of a journey for me to take a few deep breaths and become okay with this, but I feel that it's worthwhile talking this through because it's an important piece of the puzzle. So things to conclude on this, I know that there's probably a bunch of you who are watching and are like, hey Jack, like, I'm detail oriented. I want to know, you've just alluded to that there are some CRC documents that don't support, plants growing in green infrastructure. What is it? Okay, I'll go there briefly. Not really the point of the video, but I'll go there briefly so no one's scratching their heads about what's up here. Mainly what I'm alluding to is this. I have come to believe in recent years that a lot of the reasons, not the only reasons, but a lot of the reasons that we're losing plants out of green infrastructure, particularly by retention systems, is that the media that we're planting them into, while maybe not theoretically, that's the wrong word, maybe in lab conditions works really well for growing plants and removing pollutants, once we get them out in the real world and the variability of a real world climate, actually the media that we're specifying just isn't conducive enough to plant growth, and we're killing all the plants and thus damaging the bioretention systems. And the media that we're growing the plants in is almost entirely specified in accordance with the guidance that was originally in the FORB guideline, but is now in the CRC for water sensitive cities guideline. But FORB was one of the many predecessors to the CRC for water sensitive cities, so it's the same. And so that's really what I'm getting at here. I'm like, well, why, if the CRC guidelines say this about plant media? No. Anyway, that's not really the point of this, but I wanted to fill that gap. So that's it. There are now two parts in my mind to this story. We need to be okay internally with changing our opinions if we want to get to a water sensitive future, but we also need to give permission for everyone else to change their opinions. And on that note, I want to conclude with this. I want to say thank you, Tony. Thank you, Tony Wong, for making that post, because although I'm sure that it wasn't the intention of your post, you have inadvertently created the catalyst for me to learn something about myself, learn something about how we journey on this journey to a water sensitive city, and I appreciate that. And I recognize that if you were caught up with, I can't say anything that might possibly contradict something that we've ever said in a CRC document before, because that might be really awkward, you would have never made that post. And so I recognize that you are, in making that, open to and able to change your mind and to look at new ideas, and that's really cool. So thank you for making that post. I appreciate it. To everyone else who's watching, thank you for taking the time to tune in. Thank you for taking time to consider these thoughts. What do you think about this? Do you find it hard to give yourself permission to change your mind? Do you find it hard when other people change their mind? I'd love to know. There's a few ways you can find us. You can find us at ideanthro.com. There's a contact page. You can find the contact details there. You can also find all the videos on YouTube and on Facebook, and I'm now posting this all to LinkedIn as well. Sweet. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next time.